I know, Bert. Good afternoon, everybody. Can we start making our way to our chairs? Whether they're yours or your partner's, it doesn't matter. Okay, everybody. I know networking is important, but I've been told to keep on time, not Irish time. Okay, guys, let's be having you. Come on. Good afternoon, everybody. Are we all nicely coffeed up? Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for that. I hope you all enjoyed your sessions. I kind of popped in and out of one or two, and there seemed to be a lot of interactivity. So some great feedback from the sessions, and we're going to go into some detail now. But can I just check that everybody has their green, white, and orange cards? Yeah? Everybody? If you haven't, I'll give you 30 seconds to get them. You never got one. Do you any spare cards around? Yeah, there's a set of spare. Look, here's a set of spare cards. I'd hate to feel that you're left out. So has everybody got the cards? Now, does everybody know what they're used for? So there will be a set of statements called out, and if you agree with the statement, you put up the green card. If you disagree, you put up the orange card, and if you're unsure, you put the white one up. Now, if you put up all three at the same time, that would mean you're trying to support the Irish soccer team, and we might upset some people. So only one card at a time, and try to avoid the white one, as Marius said earlier. So we're going to go straight into the feedback. First up, we'll have Martin, who's no stranger to any of you. And Martin has been involved in the development. In fact, you're involved in a lot of development within EULAR and PARE. But Martin's been involved in the development of the EULAR guide for disseminating recommendations. So the workshop really was about how national organizations and individuals can use the recommendations. Yeah. So Martin's going to present some statements, and then we'll vote on them, which should be fun, because this is the first time we've ever done this.
Okay, thank you. We indeed had the opportunity to have a first workshop on some elements of the, we must say, the draft guide for patient organizations for disseminating EULAR recommendations. So just in short, for those who were not there, EULAR produces and has produced till now around 30 sets of recommendations for the management of different diseases. Previously, actually, they were developed for health professionals and in particular rheumatologists. But now there is a growing awareness, and as highlighted in one of our workshops by our country case presenter Nele Keijers, and also by our second facilitator, Christina Opava, and they also showed that it probably started when patients became part of developing these recommendations, that it was discussed that these recommendations should also be developed for patients. So not only for treating physicians, but also patients should be aware of the recommendations. And actually, and I think everybody was convinced that now EULAR should also take responsibility for developing patient versions of these recommendations. So that's what we did. EULAR has already, there is already one set of patient recommendations, and in our workshop we try to have a look at these two different sets of recommendations, the scientific and the lay versions. And what we did is, what makes a recommendation a patient version? And I think one of the, what I found most important outcome was that actually the current patient version is not really understandable for everybody. And many found it still very difficult to see the difference between the scientific one and the patient version, which in fact means that we are currently not doing the most optimal job. So there is still space for improvement. And one suggestion was really that we should not only involve patient experts in reviewing the lay versions, but actually go and look for the ordinary patients to do the final check whether it is really a understandable version. So that was one of the major findings that I took. And the second one was that one of the persons in one of the workshops also spoke about the language that you should use, whether it's from in the patient version, but also if you do the translation in your own national language, that you should always look for enabling language. So don't use words like if methotrexate fails, because it has a negative connotation. So look for something else. And we had the example where it was said, if this treatment doesn't work, you should. And that was the second one. Maybe avoid also the use of words like should, and you should maybe use you can or you may. Well, that's a different, but it is something that we have to look into. So we had a lot of input about that we can use to produce this guide, and we hope that we will be able to share this guide with you in the second half of this year. And what I would like to do now is just to ask for your opinion on 3 statements. And just have a look at the first one. EULAR should provide an English lay version for each of the recommendations it develops. So this is now not automatically expected, but this is something actually that most of our people in our workshop, I think everybody feels that EULAR should do. But we want to check whether everybody agrees with this. And can you raise?
Well, thank you, Martin, for starting on a very easy question. So.
Well, this is just an exercise, but to be honest, this is very important for us because we will have the discussion in EULAR that we would like to see EULAR making the patient version mandatory. So the second statement, if this lay version would be available, our organization would certainly translate and disseminate it in our country. So who would vote for this? Let's start with if you agree with this. Okay, we will write down your names so we can check this.
We have it on camera anyway. So.
It is live streamed, so we will use this. Thank you. And I must, of course, also ask if there are people to raise. I forgot to do this with the first one.
No. Well, okay.
Everybody was green, I think.
Yeah, I think it was overwhelming
Probably.
on both. But maybe there are those who might wish to disagree.
Yeah. Okay. Well, a little mistake, but we are now going to not make this mistake with this one. Who doesn't know this? So raise the white one. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And then I will come back to that later. I saw that. And then who is against this at this moment? I wouldn't dare to do that also. Okay, thank you. And then the last one. Lay versions should not only target patients, but also rheumatologists and health professionals. Or we can do it just in one go, of course. Everybody can just, yeah.
Do it in one go, I think.
We have done something wrong, I think. Okay, so there's a majority also in favor of this. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin. So I think the voting system worked as well. Thank you for being the crash test dummy on that one, Martin. We're going to move on now to Ep Adler, who's a trained facilitator. I think this subject is really of huge interest and huge relevance for a lot of organizations. Chairing meetings is not easy. Whether it's a confidence thing or an ability thing, it's every organization needs to have it, but not every organization does. So, Ep, would you like to? Yeah, would you like to just present your statements? Yeah.
Hello, do you hear me? Yes. So before the statement, just maybe to a little bit sum up what we did. It has been a very big honor actually to lead this workshop, and I'm very happy that EULAR has taken this on, because I have been working with EULAR and also some national organizations for years, and I have always noticed that there are really amazing people inside who are not used. And so I'm very happy to see that EULAR is noticing that actually the organizations and the people should be empowered by attitudes and skills so that they could take the position of leading and they would have the courage. And in our workshop, my key message was actually to empower the attitude of leadership. So it's not so much about the skills, but it's actually about the courage to take the role of the leadership. And also, which for me is what happens in meetings, is very often the meetings are managed, but not led. And so really the people are sort of left in the air, or they are forgotten, and it's much easier to concentrate on the very nice papers that you have on the table. So leadership is an attitude. And as it was a first example of this kind of workshop, so the statement I would like to throw at you for voting is, if you think that skills training should become a more prominent feature on the EULAR Annual European Conference of PARE. I think you can raise all the, whatever color you are raising. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. So you just have one statement?
Yes.
And everybody agrees with it?
Okay, thank you very much.
That's a great start today. Thanks very much, Ep. Of course, the other aim of the workshop was to try and create a pool of future moderators for PARE conferences, which is very important. Do you think you've found many?
I think there are a lot.
There are a lot, okay. Do you have their names and addresses and emails? Excellent. We have it on camera as well. Let's move on to another subject now, which everybody's talking about apps and e-health, and I think a lot of people have different views as to what e-health is and what are apps, and people think we should all have apps, but I think what was coming up in the workshop were they're expensive, who's going to pay for them, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe Loretta, you can take us through that.
Yeah, among other things, but really money was one of the things, one of the words that was more many times said, right? Money, 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 money. So, but we also saw some ideas on how to fund apps, and some of them were like considering apps research and applying for grants. So I think that's a good idea, and also asking about when we said whether we wanted drug companies to fund apps. We had no problems with drug companies financing apps if everything was transparent and clear, and the ownership was not for the drug company, but for the association that developed the app. But yet, besides money, we agreed that it's more important to have a good idea first. And if the idea is good enough, maybe we will have an easier way to get the money. And yes, we discussed many interesting things about apps, and many things that are needed in order to have an app that engages people with RMDs, and many things that are important to have clear from the beginning, not to fail at the end and waste the money. And we have two statements. One is related to actually what we talk about, and the other one is just an idea of an app. So the first thing is, do you think we should develop EULAR recommendations for the development of e-health services and apps? So yet another recommendation, volunteers. Okay, then we have people who doesn't really think we should need recommendations for that. I'm not sure, but you all said green, except for 2. And then the second one is more about how maybe one kind of app. Would you use an app that tells you where to find resources useful for rheumatic and musculoskeletal diseases around you, like a map? Interesting. Wow, I like this. This is more colorful.
This is testing now, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So it might not be useful at the end. So this is actually, this is the right answer for this, because apps are not for everybody. Not everybody wants an app, right?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah, correct.
Yeah, I think it's good.
There was a little bit of orange there, and a little bit of white, but still we're seeing a lot more green.
Yeah. So I understand now that there are 1,000 apps, and you have to find yours, yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Loretta. As we're flying through this workshop stage, I'm going to check in with Florian to see if there's any interesting tweets, which will probably kill about 5 minutes.
Well, if you're interested in statistics, I could give you some overview about the recent statistics. Also, maybe interesting for you as Arthritis Ireland. You're the top 2. Your organization is the top 2 mentioned from all the tweets around. And I think if anybody knows the Twitter language, 607,000 impressions have been created throughout the last 2 or 3 days. I think the last 3 days is what I've included here.
That's good, I think.
This is already
that sounds good. Yeah,
already
that's
a great
good,
number.
Isn't it?
Maybe for somebody who doesn't know what impressions mean, it's really creating the opportunity to read those tweets, and tweets itself have been created 627 until now, and the Twitter wall is going wild, as you can see yourself.
So I have a statement. Shall we continue to use the Twitter wall in future conferences? Now, well, let's get on to our last and final session. Petra, this is a really interesting area, young arthritis. We have a full-time person who looks after young arthritis, but certainly we've learned over the years there are very different needs and different issues, and I think it's really this workshop has taken place. So Petra, you're going to take us through what the workshop was about, and then hopefully you'll have some controversial statements, because we'd like to see a little bit of orange creeping in.
We'll see. Based on the initiative of EULAR Standing Committee PARE, a need for youth network was recognized, And therefore, about 3 years ago, there was a research conducted among young people meaning people aged 18 through 35. And the results of the research then led to fruitful discussions and, in the end, a strategy that was discussed at this workshop. And the key messages that we would like, or I would like to present to you, nothing about the youth without the youth. What does that mean? That means we should let the young people do the work themselves, but we do need support because we lack the confidence, we lack personal experience, and we need you, all of you, to help us. And we also need to be empowered to become young leaders, and this can be done through all the workshops and conferences. And this can also lead to natural creation of youth organizations, therefore get youth organized. So these were the key messages that we would like to share. And well, we'll see whether controversial or not, statements that we would like you to vote on. By 2020, all para-member organizations should have a youth group.
I think that's a big yes.
I think so. I like that.
Glad to see no orange there. Except the obvious t-shirts, which don't count at all.
And the second one, the best way to create awareness is to have ambassadors, that means youth leaders in this case, who talk about their personal experience with RMDs.
Big hit, big hit.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Petra, just as you're sitting down, I mean, can talk to us about the different needs that youth have versus like the services that are available for adult population, and what's the gap that EULAR and PARE, what gap exists there at the moment?
What was identified was
Switch on
the transition period between being a child and going to adulthood. That when we are children, we have parents that go to us with to the doctors, but then we suddenly want to be independent, become more responsible, and we don't know how to talk about with the doctors, and we are not sure how to do it. We lack confidence. And also what came up very strongly out of the discussions during the workshop was the education, not only of young people, but also the education of health professionals, basically society, because they don't know that RMDs cannot affect young people.
Yeah. So you're starting from a negative base as it is, but there are very different needs, aren't there?
Yes,
Yeah.
very country specific, but then maybe they can be somehow put together by us and create, maybe we would be able to create some virtual knowledge center where best practices could be shared and then taken to those countries and used in their own terms.
How do we reach that audience, though? How do we reach the audience? I mean, certainly in our experience, you know, children under the age of 16 have their parents generally, and they can bring them to events, and then once you're an older established adult, you feel comfortable attending, say, a support group in the community. How do you reach the significant numbers in the middle?
Tailoring the sessions, maybe having a special dedicated part during PARE conference, not only a workshop, but a specific program tailored for the young people could be an
Can I throw that open to the floor? I mean, that is a topic that I certainly talk to a lot of people in the room about every single year, and we don't seem to have come up with the answer as to how to specifically target. Yeah, any ideas from the floor as to how we target a very important cohort? No? Okay. So it's even going to be more difficult to do it, I'd say. Aha! Thank you, Peter. You might have some ideas. We have one.
When we were having the workshop, which was excellent, really, I really enjoyed it, and there was thrown, the ideas were thrown that maybe youngsters who passed the transition stage from 16 to 18 to 20, 20 and more, and even younger youngsters, 34 and so more, they can themselves become the inspiring leaders to the newest 20-something leaders. We discussed about through internet and online and all this media, which is easily accessible, but however, it was said there that people, especially young ones, at that age, we also, but we were talking about that, it's, we need a tangible example. A person who has been there, who now is controlling his life in early 30s or something, but he's a good role model. Somebody who has done it, somebody who has been there, who has all the answers, who has been throughout all those concerns that I'm having if I'm 18 or if I'm 16. These people could be the best examples from them, and not like, as I use there, a mother figure like me, and not them. It's through media, of course, the main thing.
That makes sense. It's your peers, really, isn't it? Martin, do you have some ideas as to how? But what I'm asking is, how do you actually set up and facilitate a forum for people to feel comfortable with getting together?
I don't have any experience in that, so I cannot advise on that. But just going back to the first question that you asked also to Peter, how can we facilitate young people, and how can we I think for me two things would be very important. And first is think in terms of numbers. So inviting 2 or 3 young people is not very motivating to get them organized. That you need a critical mass of young people that they feel confident to speak up in meetings and to get organized. So I think that's the first thing, and I think Pare is doing great in this, in really allowing young people to become part of it, and not only one or two, but really in a substantial number. And the second thing is, and you mentioned that, and I think that is the power, that if you organize something, and that's also for patient organizations, and you want to set up something for young people, it can only be done with young people. So it doesn't go to work if you organize things only for young people, if they are not involved in organizing from a very early stage in the activities. And that means really a change of attitude in our minds, because the most important thing which it means is that we allow young people to make the same mistakes that we did 10 years ago. And don't believe that that you can do it better.
Someone gave me a microphone, so I was trying to come in there a second
All right,
ago.
sorry, Peter. We forgot about it. We were just having a little chat here ourselves. Actually, so
But somebody gave me a microphone, so I'm going to use it while I have it in my hand. It's just to add to that, as you were saying, Petra, about getting youth involved and how to do it. It's about kind of going out and getting kind of that age group, the transition age group of kind of late teens, early 20s. You really have to go and get them, where the younger children and that, their parents will do a lot of the looking and bringing them to events and different things, and then older adults will go and look for the information themselves. that kind of transition place, you really have to go and get them at their places. So it is using social media. It is going to see them at their at clinics and things like that, and going and finding them and bringing them into you rather than presuming or allowing them come towards you. It's certainly something that needs to be done in that sense. And we were talking about it a little bit about the kind of the age bracket of having those youth leaders, the people who have the personal experience and passing it on to those coming up behind and sharing their experiences. That it encourages and it makes the people who maybe are used to being told no or they can't do something, showing them a positive example, a positive role model, that's what brings them along and makes not just someone who's living well with a condition, but also good people who have confidence and self-esteem and all the rest of it. That's more as important as actually managing and dealing with their juvenile arthritis or arthritis, depending on their age or they're diagnosed. And then it's also at the other end, then the older ones who are maybe stepping aside, they're given the platform then for younger people to come up and to replace them and providing that kind of follow through and leadership so that other people feel empowered then to take over and be the next generation of people looking after that age group. But certainly to go out and look and use sometimes with the amount of work and careers and relationships and studying and all those other things that are kind of specific to that age group, sometimes just online media is all that they have time for. So sometimes it's accepting that's enough, that providing a forum online might just be enough, and you might not actually get them to come and actually turn up in person in great numbers, but the online forum may just be enough for them to get the support and the understanding that they look for.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Epp, do you have some input into this?
Yes, I think it correlates what you said. But I've been working with young people for a long, long time. And I think one thing that EULAR has to do is to make sure that there is a functioning youth group that is sustainable. So that I think the idea of having this kind of young support persons and role models that you can actually be okay living with this diagnosis, I think is very important. But I was one of the persons who was doing the interviews for the youth study a few years ago. And then what I discovered was that very often the organizations want to have too many people involved, which is, of course, I understand. But I think what I discovered talking to the young people, they need information, they lack complete information, and they don't want to identify themselves as an RMD young person. So, and I think this is fine because they have to build up their independent life first and sort of accept, but they don't want to identify with a diagnosis. And I think it's necessary to accept it, but what I also discovered that they completely lack access to information. They have very technical information, medical information, but they don't have life support. Or they don't have this kind, and I think what would be, from my point of view, or an idea to make sure that there are websites, that it is very safe, that even if I don't want to identify myself, I can go online and I get the information that I need. And I think this is missing, really. In some countries there is information, but in most countries it's not. And I think there are many young people who are lost after being a child, so which means they search for information when it's too late. And so I think it's also a question to the health professionals that maybe there is a package of information to make sure that young people get, when there is certain age, people who go to them, so that even if they don't ask, that sort of is, when you feel ready, read it.
Okay, so there's very definitely an information need.
Yeah, I think there is a huge information, there is a lack of information.
Let's not forget they're growing up with the same issues that everyone else is growing up with. Loretto, do you want to? Maybe you have an app for this, do you?
Oh, not an app, but we have a recommendation. Yeah. No, we are, and Simon is involved too. We are developing recommendations for transitional services between adolescent to young adult rheumatology. And in these recommendations, one of the products is a list of places or resources you can go to find information, because actually there's lots and lots and lots of information, but it's just that it's hidden. It's not really accessible. So by having this list, all the rheumatologists, either the pediatricians or the health professionals that are dealing with these young persons can signpost them to the places where they can find it. So it's all related at the end, see? We could have an app also.
You may very end up with one. Petra, you've got an awful lot of work ahead of you. Have you got good support in the team, or?
I think I do, or we do, as young people. It's going to be challenging.
Mm-hmm.
It is going to be a lot of work. And I do want to thank the team, the working group. We are all here, except one member who was unfortunately quite sick. We have the secretarial support. And I hope that we will live up to the promises and be able to have a sustainable working group within EULAR, and that people can turn to us.
I have no doubt you will. It's very, very important. Loretto?
Yeah, maybe I'm going to add something provocative here. You know, there's a group of young rheumatologists and health professionals in EULAR, UNET.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you get together and become the same group? I mean, why not working together from the beginning? Not waiting until the end to discover, oh, there's PARE, what is that? Oh, there's young people also there? Well, so maybe it's a way to start, I don't know.
Sounds like a good suggestion, yeah.
I don't know how to phrase this. We are there. There was already a connection suggested. We are hoping to meet a volunteer from EULAR, a rheumatologist, who is willing to be our medical support and provide us with information that we may need. And hopefully we will be able to set this up during the Congress in Rome.
Okay, I'm going to throw it out to the floor as well. I mean, is there any other comments? I mean, comments on any aspect of the workshops? I know we sort of drifted on talking about youth, but it's a really, really important part of support. Marius?
Just to say what Loretto said, last year in Zagreb, in the conference, we had the workshop for the young people participating, and also as a facilitator, also present the good practice of the young rheumatologists working group. So we're working together in order to establish, but also now to further working our working group for the young patients, the young people with rheumatic diseases. So yes, we are working together with the EULAR. Yeah, with the young rheumatologists.
Any other feedback or comments or nuggets of ideas? Or have we all experienced a very long, tiring day and we're all... I'd say I'd get a lot of green cards for that now, would I? Shall we break? Okay, okay, I see all the green cards going up. So we're 5 minutes early, Esme. Yeah, so it's been a long day. Just to go through what the plan is for the rest of the evening, pretty much. I think I'll take everybody through that. Esme, will I? Okay, we do have a very important interactive session in the Carolyn suite, if I can just get my information here. It's a multimedia reception, so it's at 6:30. Now, we've arranged for the rain to come so that you'll stay indoors and go to the interactive session. Not really, I jest, but we would encourage everybody to attend that. And there will be a competition as well and prizes as well. So a lot of people have gone to a lot of trouble in putting up posters and interactive media. So if you could please visit that in the O'Carolyn room at 6:30 this evening. Dinner will be served in the Coast Restaurant at 7:30. So will I then go into the Saturday morning as well? Because tomorrow morning, we're not here. So I think it's very important just to remind everybody. So that's the multimedia session in the O'Carrollin at 6:30, dinner at 7:30. So you go straight to your workshops in the morning, not here. So in terms of the timings, we've breakfast from 7:05. Then from 8 to 8:30, there are physical activities. Now, depending on the weather, that could be walking outside, being blown up and down the coast, or there's yoga here as well. So whichever activity you choose, make sure by 9 o'clock you're at your workshops. You're not coming here in the morning. You're going straight to your workshop by 9 o'clock in the morning. Okay. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Turn this off first. Thank you.